Hello everyone, bonsoir and welcome to the Get French Football News Show. I'm Nathan Staples and here with me this week, as always, are Eric Devine and Philippe Bargillon. Week 37 tied up a lot of loose ends in French football, but before we dig into that, here's Eric with the news from the week that was.
Thank you, Nathan. On its penultimate weekend, all 10 Ligue 1 matches kicked off simultaneously, and the big story was, of course, Paris Saint-Germain's 2-1 win at the Stade Malsong, where early goals from Ezekiel Lavezzi and Blaise Matuidi were enough to ensure a third successive league title. Lyon, meanwhile, clinched second place, in a 1-1 draw at the Stade Gerland, Nabil Fekir having equalized after a goal on 3 minutes from Bordeaux youngster Enzo Crivelli, who was making his first start. With the draw, Bordeaux clinched sixth place, and with it, European competition for next season should PSG defeat Auxerre in the Coupe de France final. Further down the table, Marseille kept up the pressure on Monaco with a superb 4-0 win at Lille, while Saint-Etienne consigned Evian to relegation, remaining level on points with OM after a contentious Max-Alain Gradel penalty 10 minutes from time proved the difference in a 2-1 win in Nancy. Monaco, however, proved up to the task with Bernardo Silva scoring and assisting in his side's 2-0 victory over Metz. There is still all to play for between the three sides heading into this Saturday's final match day. The league's other 5 matches had little at stake with Evian's loss, as Caen drew 1-1 at Bastia, with Lorient achieving the same result at Nantes. Elsewhere in Brittany, Guingamp's Claudio Beauvieux marked his final home appearance at the Stade Rouge with the winner, his 16th of the season, in a 2-1 victory over Toulouse. In the remaining 2 matches, both hosts won, with Nice defeating Lens 2-1 and Reims heading off Rennes 1-0. In off-field news, some 70-odd Nice fans attacked the playing squad and manager Claude Puel on Thursday, pushing and shoving the manager and several players before police and security intervened. The fans were reportedly upset by their side's performance in matchday 36 loss to Saint-Etienne, a 5-0 drubbing at a point when relegation was still a possibility. PSG fans, meanwhile, had their day in court as the infamous Stade Dossier was suspended by the State Council, France's highest court. The dossier had been part of a plan by PSG's ownership group to keep out certain fans deemed to be undesirable by the club under Qatari ownership. While relegation is finalized in France's top flight, the battle for who will replace Lens, Metz, and Evian continues apace in Ligue 2. Gazlec Ajaccio confirmed their place in next season's Ligue 1 with a 3-2 victory over Niortais, while Angers need only a point at home this weekend to Nimes to clinch third place in the final promotion spot. In managerial news, despite his exclusion from the UNFP Manager of the Year shortlist, Leonardo Jardim of Monaco was awarded an extension through 2019 by the club. Finally, the UNFP handed out awards to the Team of the Season, Young Player of the Year, and Manager, a topic to be discussed later in the show. That's all for now, Nathan. Back to you.
Thanks, Eric, and if you want to keep up to date with everything French football related, head to our website and Twitter, which are linked in the description. Well, it was inevitable, but it's been confirmed this weekend. Paris Saint-Germain are champions of France for a third time in a row. Their 2-1 win away at Montpellier earned them the league title despite Lyon's result. And looking back at their season now, is it well deserved, Philip?
The main result of the season, PSG are champions of France, and I think we have to applaud Lyon for make it so much difficult for Paris Saint-Germain this season, because it's been exciting. It's been quite good to see. We only got the confirmation that PSG were going to win the league when Lyon lost at Caen 3-0. Lyon actually failed to win again this weekend against a very resolute and organized Bordeaux side, so they drew 1-1, and PSG just kept on going, and that was the end of season form. They've won every single game since playing Barcelona. Is it deserved? Well, one would say yes, with this amount of points. There'll always be critics about the performances, about Ibrahimovic not performing on the big stage, about the play sometimes not being very attractive, the amount of goals not being very high every week. So you always get people who'll be moaning about having the lack of competition in the league, about the other clubs not being able to keep up the pace. This was not the case this season, so it's been very good. Marseille was very good in the first half of the season. Lyon were very good in both halves of the season, but PSG just got to win. So this was definitely I want to say a Bayern Munich type season in which they had to keep on winning to keep the project alive, and they did. And sometimes it was definitely not very spectacular.
Well, however, it wasn't a walk in the park, as you said, and as it has been in the past, and Lyon pushed them pretty close. Has this been their most impressive win, given the competition against them this year, Eric?
Yeah, I'd have to say so. Not only the level of competition they received from other sides, but they seem to really reach another level in the past month or so. I mean, they had a lot of struggles earlier in the season, but their running, they just really operated with a really dominant. They just operated in a really dominant fashion, and the title had, even when they were behind Lyon on points, their march to the title sort of had a air of inevitability, and the way that they won so decisively against Guingamp and Lille in the past few weeks to chip away at that goal difference that they had been behind Lyon on was really, really impressive. The team has really grown together. The first two titles didn't really see any strong opposition. Marseille and Lyon had struggled 2 years ago, and last year Monaco came second, but that was their first year in the league. There were a lot of new players on Monaco's team, and there wasn't really a strong contender that they had this year with Marseille for most of the season and Lyon up until the past month or so. So the fact that they were pressed so hard throughout most of the season, and still managed to come away with what's looking like a fairly decisive win with regards to the title is really pretty impressive. And I know we're going to talk more about this later, but there should be some credit given to Laurent Blanc for the way he's really got this team to come together and get some rather unexpected performances out of players who had sort of been on the fringes of the squad. Particularly looking at the goals that the likes of Cavani and Lavezzi have scored over the past month or so as well.
Would you concur with that, Philip, about PSG? This has been their toughest year, yet maybe their most impressive?
Impressive, probably. Maybe not. I mean, most of the time, I wasn't really impressed by the team in general. There was the individuals were really amazing this season. We saw Verratti, who was really extraordinary in his passing and in his tackling. Pastore was exceptional as well. But you've had some really bad performances as well. Sirigu had his critics, which I find harsh as they actually are. So has Van der Wiel. I thought that Ibrahimovic, despite being up there in the team of the year, did not have a good season. Nor did Cavani, nor did Lavezzi. So there's still a lot of it hasn't been perfect by any means, and most of the players, I would say it was half really good, and half was just half-hearted really by the more established members of the squad, and other players who were just young, up and coming, and by that I really mean players like Marquinhos or Matuidi, even though Matuidi is probably going to leave this category, and probably has left it before. And they were just extremely focused and professional. And then they've got the final category of players like Thiago Silva, who really didn't have a great first half of the season, and the second half we really saw what he really is about. He came out and said, "Yeah, I'm still up there with one of the best centre backs in the world." So that's a good thing. So not impressive, but it was a tough test. It was a tough test, and again, credit to Lyon for giving it their all. It was completely unexpected. I mean, talking to several Lyon fans this weekend, asked them, "Well, you're second. I mean, you must be delighted with that." And they said, "Yeah, but not champion." So they're a bit disappointed about that. But it's going to be quite interesting to see if they can still be there next season at this level with the added European Cup games, if Monaco can stay there, and what's going to happen at Marseille for next season at least.
Looking ahead, are they favourites for a fourth in the row? Eric, who will be the nearest challengers next season as well?
I mean, you've got to make them favorites, especially if they can bring in, likes of Pogba or Angel Di Maria. I think this squad in full fitness would be easily the best in France, and I don't think that they'll be pushed as easily. And I think the treble also, should they achieve that, will have a galvanizing effect on the team, and that we should look forward to this sort of form that PSG has ended the season with from the get-go early next season. I think it will be more of a runaway from the Parisian side next season. I think that there could be a dark horse maybe in Monaco if they can start off strongly and they can hang on to all their players. I mean, there's been some rumors of the likes of maybe Abdenor leaving, but I think it should be PSG's in much more of a walk next year. That they should be more focused on the league in general and perhaps use a higher coefficient to have less of a focus on the Champions League group stages and really come together as a team and play the way they played these last couple of months. It should be not much of a challenge at all from them.
I mean, the main real improvement that really needs to be done right now, it's not to win another treble. I mean, I know the treble is not won yet because the final is in 2 weeks. But really, the point that needs to be addressed right now is not to finish second in the Champions League group stage, because this really it's not like it killed the season, but it really put the whole thing in jeopardy. Really, finishing second when you want to win the whole thing, it's not exactly sending the right message. And I know it was against Barcelona, but it's just cannot. It just is not something that should be happening every season. And we actually got the pots for Champions League season 2015-2016, and PSG are in pot number 1. So there's no excuses this time, unless of course they end up with Real Madrid, which will be quite unlikely.
But I mean, it's a crapshoot, right? If you have Chelsea in the round of 16, PSG won their group 2 years ago, and they were in that group. And they got Valencia, I believe, in the first round, and they won. It's in the knockout rounds of the Champions League, anything can happen. I think that it could be a mental boost for PSG to win their group, but I don't think that it's terribly important because you never know if there's another group of death like there was 2 years ago with Arsenal and Napoli and Dortmund and Marseille. You're going to be facing a good team no matter what. And we saw the likes of Monaco and Juventus have pulled off what people would consider surprises so far this year. And I think that unless PSG can look at winning the group as something of an achievement, I think that they just really need to be ready to be at their best at full strength and to play with the level of commitment attacking verve that we've seen lately from them in the Champions League. I mean, they ran into a buzzsaw this year in Barcelona, and that was, luck of the draw. But I still think, had PSG, even against Barcelona, had PSG been at full strength, it would have given Barcelona much more of a run for their money. With the level of individual talent they have and how cohesively they'd been playing around that time, had they been at full strength, the suspensions and injury problems that they had, I think that PSG is, probably the best suited team in the competition to really give Barcelona a run for their money. And again, who you play from the round of 16 on is going to be another top quality team, and this team's can be ready to play anybody, regardless of whether they win the group stage or not.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm looking at it from let's take the example of Bayern, who played. I think it was Donetsk in the round of 16 in the first knockout stage, and then they played Porto, probably arguably the quarterfinals weakest team. Then you've got the semi-finals, and then it's a toss coin. It was more of something. I was thinking more of something like that, and then of course it sends a message. If you're top of your group in the Champions League, it just sends a message that you are a strong team, especially when you've got all these other nations where they'll have new clubs. There'll be Wolfsburg and Mönchengladbach in Germany. There'll be a return for Manchester United, who haven't been there and haven't had European competitions this season. So it's really it's going to be a great time for PSG to go hopefully further than the quarterfinals in the Champions League next season.
Well, it'll be interesting to watch, and I think Eric made a great point. Once you get past a certain stage of the Champions League, it's difficult for anyone. But we'll move on now to our talent scout section of the piece. Eric this week is going to talk about Reims fullback Issa Mondi.
Yeah, Mondi is an interesting player. He's not a younger player, as I've talked about in the past handful of weeks. He'll be 24 in October. He's been at Reims since he was 8 years old. He's a youth team product. He made his first team debut at 18. Reims were still down in Ligue 2. He's recently an Algerian international in the past 18 months. He can play left back and right back, but he started out as a center back. He's a bit of a bigger player for a fullback. He's 6'1" and fairly well built. He's not really sort of the small, speedy, whipping crosses in style of attacking fullback that we're so used to seeing in the modern game, but I think he can make a fair comparison for those who haven't seen him, maybe to the likes of Marquinhos, someone who's physically strong, but also fairly fast, and not the most adept crosser, but has that versatility as well. He's good in the tackle, if a little bit overeager. He's suffered from discipline problems in the past. He had a couple of particularly heinous red cards in the past 2 seasons, but that's something that he's improving on a little bit. I think the real interesting facet to his game is that being so physically imposing for a right back, he becomes an additional threat from set pieces. He's got 5 goals this season. I believe all of them have come from corners. He's great header of the ball, and having that added threat makes him sort of hard for teams to cope with. You're not expecting to have the right back be marked so tightly as you would, the bringing up a center back or a striker. You're not expecting a player in that position to be marked, so it makes him an additional threat from set pieces for Reims. Again, his passing needs to improve a little bit for him to really be a right back, but I kind of question at this point how much more improvement there is left from him. At this point, he's played over 100 matches for Reims, and how much improvement we can really expect from him is sort of not. It's not to be. It's not. There's not much more I think we can really expect from him in terms of developing as a player. He had been linked with the likes of Arsenal and Spurs last summer, and now the new hot rumor is that he's going to either Lyon or Saint-Etienne. And I think that his being a Ligue 1 squad player is more his level. He's not going to be starting matches for a team that's at or near the top of the English Premier League, but I think his versatility could make him potentially a great acquisition for Lyon, being able to cover Jallet and Berimo, both at left back and right back, and he has a history with Hubert Fournier as well, so I think that's a positive. Going forward, if he does make a move away, which he's explicitly said he wants to do, though his destination is to be determined. So, yeah, Mondi is, I think, just somewhat interesting to consider, but he's not, I don't think ever going to really be the world beater that we can maybe expect from some of France's other young talent, but nevertheless an interesting player who's worth a look, especially if he does make a move to Lyon and play matches in the Champions League next year.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to see how he develops in the summer, especially as he has already admitted he's ready for a bit of a move on. We'll move on to the bottom of the league now after talking about PSG. Evian had a slim chance before Saturday's fixtures, but their loss against Saint-Etienne saw them relegated back to Ligue 2, confirmed. And Philippe, Evian have been punching above their weight for a while now. Was it only a matter of time before they fell through the trapdoor?
Well, I don't think so. It's been an absolutely fascinating fight not to go down, since we knew for quite a while now that Lens and Metz were going to go down, and then it was a race of between pretty much the rest of the lower half of the table, not to finish in this 18 spots basically. So Evian have experience in this battle. They were in against Sochaux last season. and they won that battle. A lot of people wanted Sochaux to survive for the historical value of the club. It is true that Sochaux is a more historic club than Evian. So they had the experiences, but to me they didn't lose relegation on Saturday. And by the way, great goal by Gradel. Saint-Etienne's first is a really good goal. But they lost it at other games, especially against Reims last week at home to Reims. It's a 6-pointer. You can't really lose that, and the performance was not good. They lost it at home to Bastia. They lost it in other games which they probably could have done better. And it's a shame really, because this had the potential to be a fight to avoid the drop till the very end. I mean, now everything is settled, and looking back, Evian have 37 points, which is not a great tally with one game to go. But that's also because all the other sides have worked very, very hard. Some of them have sacked their managers, and it's all worked. It's actually worked for the Swiss sides who sacked their managers, Bastia, Toulouse, and Reims. Reims were actually my favourites to go down. So Evian, it was possible for Evian, but better luck next time.
I think they left it a little bit too late this time, after a couple of years of lucky escapes in the last moment. Other than the obvious Daniel Vass, clearly probably is going to move on. Is there anyone else who might remain in Liga or possibly make a move overseas, Eric?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple players. Yeltsin Tejeda, the young Costa Rican midfielder, had really been impressive in the World Cup, and Evian brought him in before the start of the season, and I think he's done pretty well. Jonathan Mensah is a Ghanaian international at center back as well, and he's had some issues with injuries, and of course he was away at the Cup of African Nations as well. He could be a good squad player for somebody else. The rest of the team, not so much. Obviously, Duhamel is going to go back to Caen, but it's an older team. You look, and a lot of these players I don't think really have a place in Ligue 1, or not in any obvious way. Perhaps there might be a place for them to take a chance. A team like Gazalec, Ajaccio, or if Angers go up, to maybe take a flyer on some of these players, like maybe an Olivier Sorlin, just for the likes of their experience in leadership, having been in Ligue 1 for a while. But I don't really see any other obvious candidates besides those two to remain in Ligue 1 or to make a move abroad in any meaningful way.
I think they've also taken Ligue 1 professionals who are very, very experienced. So I'm thinking of Cédric Barbosa and Olivier Sorlin. They are 39 and 36 years old respectively, and they've played almost every single game of Evian. They probably the board made too much emphasis on having these two and their experience to lead by example. It just hasn't worked. It was just it just didn't work. So maybe the team need to freshen up and now give Hughes its chance. He probably should have done that this season as well. But it's always easy to criticize once relegation is confirmed. But to me, it was the squad was quite aging. It was a close shave last season, and it didn't happen this season. And I can't say I'm surprised, but I always thought that they still have that little bit of luck and experience and some sort of Midas touch to get themselves out of this position.
Well, we've talked about this in previous weeks. They just have failed to bring in a goal scorer. Losing the likes of Saber Khalifa and Kevin Berrigo over the last two seasons, they're not world beaters, but they've still been double-digit scorers. On a side threatened with relegation, you need to have somebody who's going to bang in the goals. In past seasons, that's been Vass. This year, he didn't have it. Bringing in Duhamel on loan from Caen, I think that they thought that they could get something out of him, but he's dealt with injuries and hasn't really been the force that maybe necessarily would have expected. I know he did score at the weekend, but it's just poor mismanagement. I mean, even taking a flyer on the likes of another on loan striker or maybe from another league as well, but without investing in any attacking talent, it was just too little, too late for Evian. I mean, they should have planned better in the summer window to replace those players that they lost over the last 2 years. You know, to rely on a right winger / right back in the form of Voss for your goals, and some of those are coming from free kicks. I mean, I know a lot of that is down to a player's aptitude, but free kicks are so circumstantial, and unless someone's a striker, perhaps an attacking midfielder, you can't really expect them to be contributing 10, 12, 15 goals that they need, and they haven't had that this year, and that's what it's down to. It's really a lack of planning. It's just disappointing on a lot of fronts from Evian to see them lose their Ligue 1 status without really so much of a fight.
Yeah, because looking back, there's only one Evian player who has more than who has 5 goals actually all season. That's NC Kulu, and I'm pretty sure most of our listeners haven't heard of him in a more than glorious way than the other strikers of the other struggling teams. I mean, this is it's not like it was Reims. For example, Reims have David Ndog, Toulouse have Wissam Ben Yedder, and all of them, Lorient have Philippe Otto. I mean, all the other teams have some kind of source to get goals. Well, Evian just had Vass, who was a right back, and basically their source was the set pieces. So it's just I don't know, and it just sounds like they didn't really. I mean, the heart wasn't really in it. That's what it looked like. It looked like to me last weekend when I watched their game against Haas. Just that Haas really wanted it, and that Evian were like, oh well, let's go down then. See what that's like. So that's a shame. It's a real shame. It's a shame for next weekend. That's a real thing, because it's now nothing to play for.
I think that point of them giving up a little is emphasised by the fact that 11 wins, 4 draws, and 22 defeats says they were either one way or the other. And this year, unfortunately for them, it was more the other often more than not. Is there any chance of them to bounce back immediately? You can't keep Pascal Dupraz down for long, can you, Philip?
No. I'm not really that concerned about them next season in Ligue 2. Just like Metz, I think they've got since they're not spending any money, I'd assume they have some. Like I said about the two role players, Barbosa and Solin, they're not going to stay on forever. And so that will be obviously the wage bill probably as soon as next week. And they do have young players who can do the job, but Ligue 2 is also going to be very, very competitive. But I don't see them completely drowning into extinction like those sides who go from Ligue 2. Get relegated from Ligue 1 and straight relegated from Ligue 2. I think it'll either be mid-table mediocrity or thereabouts for going straight back up. But I'm not really concerned about the actual finances of the club. So I think they'll be okay and give Youth its chance.
Eric, can they come back up?
I don't think so. I mean, you look at the likes of a Sochaux, a Nancy, a Brest, a Dijon, maybe even Valenciennes next year. I mean, these are all clubs with stronger historical tradition and support, and I think they're much more likely candidates to bounce back up. But Evian, I mean, it's obvious, like Philip said, the management's not evincing enough that they care about being in Ligue 1. Otherwise, they would have brought in the strikers necessary to attack, not even to score goals, but there was a couple matches at one point where they didn't have any players who were strikers fit. All of Duhamel, Nielsen, and Nskulu were injured, and they didn't actually have a striker. It was just really baffling. The team, the management behind this team doesn't particularly care about its status, so I don't see them, being a candidate to bounce back. If they can continue drawing, the 8, 9, 10,000 people that they get in Nancy to their matches in Ligue 2, and that's enough for them to break even, and maybe sell on the occasional player. That's they want to do. That's their business. I just, I do feel badly though for the fans out there who do support them.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, moving perfectly on from teams that are going from League to Ligue 2 to teams going up in the leagues. Our special report this week, Philip, is on teams in France being promoted.
Yeah. So on Friday evening, the penultimate game in Ligue 2, so same as Ligue 1, all sides played against each other at the same time. And Gazélec d'Ajaccio, which is the second club of the town of Ajaccio, the Corsican capital, gained promotion for the first time in its rather short history. It was founded in 1960 to Ligue 1 with a budget of 4.5 million euros, which is really really nothing. It's smaller than their rivals of the city, Athletic Club Ajaccio, which we call ACA. So they play in a smaller stadium. The club has actually denied being a professional club until 1996. It was actually denied promotion to Ligue 2, so professional football, in 1999 because there was some kind of law that forbade two clubs of the same city that was under 100,000 people to play in to have two professional clubs. So thankfully this has been sorted. So Ajaccio and Gazélec can be two professional clubs at the same time. And it's really great for this small side. What's amazing is that they just spent 2 seasons in Ligue 2 ever. So the first one was 2 years ago. They finished bottom. They were really not good, and they went straight back down to National. And now this is their second promotion in a row, and we'll have to see how that goes. And I'm quite confident that they'll take a few loan players here and there. They'll take a few youngsters from sides that have just been relegated, from Metz, from Lens, from Evian now, and quite a few players from Ligue 2. And I mean, it's one of those promotions where you just expect them to get destroyed every weekend, and for them to go straight back down. But we'll just have to wait and see. And the great part of it is that their rivals, SC Ajaccio, will probably actually go down to National because they're 17th, which is just over the relegation zone, and they may actually be two divisions apart in favour of Gazélec, which is absolutely unheard of in the history of Corsican football. So that was for Corsican Ligue 2, of Ligue 2 sides getting promoted to Ligue 1. For national clubs getting promoted to Ligue 2, it's even better. It's going to be Paris-Filled, where it's half Paris-Filled for starters. So Red Stars, the historical Paris club, have been promoted last week, and they're back in the second tier for the first time since 1999. Again, really great achievement. Everybody is extremely happy that this has been confirmed. For Paris FC, who are second in National, which is the third tier, it hasn't been confirmed yet. They had to win against Bourg-Péronnas. They didn't, and they can confirm this weekend. Great story about Paris FC is that they were actually part of Paris Saint-Germain for 3 years. So Paris Saint-Germain were formed in 1970. From the merger of Paris FC and Stade Saint-Germain, and then things didn't go too well, and Paris FC decided to be a single entity again. And they've been in the second and third division for a while, but they've been in the third division for so long. I mean, I can't remember them playing in another division since I got into football. So which was a very long time ago. So that's I really do hope that they go up, to Ligue 2, and then you have Strasbourg, who won the Coupe de France in the early 2000s when José Luis Chilavert won them the cup on penalties. So they were Europeans. And since then, just like other clubs, it hasn't gone down too well. Financial difficulties, and the other two, just to finish very quickly, the other two I wanted to mention were Sedan, who won the Coupe de France as well twice, who are definitely promoted to National, and Grenoble, who will have to fight it out on the final day in the amateur league. And hopefully they've shown that they're capable of the best. I mean, they did. Let's remind our listeners that they did knock out Marseille on penalties in the in the first round of the French Cup, and it was really people started noticing them, and I really do hope that they go up as well. So you have Gazette d'Ajaccio in Ligue 1. Red Star in Ligue 2, maybe Paris, maybe Strasbourg, Sedan in National, and maybe Grenoble. And for that, it's great that these big clubs, these big places, are doing well.
Yeah, it's great to hear, and it'll be very interesting to see Gazelle d'Ajaccio in Liga next season. What might have gone under the radar this weekend was Bordeaux securing 6th position, which could lead to Europa League place should PSG win the Coupe de France final against Auxerre. How do you feel about Willy Sagnol's first season in charge has gone, Eric?
I think, great. There were definitely some bumps in the road earlier on, but he's really molded this team into an incredible defensive unit. I believe they have the second or third best defensive record in Ligue 1 in 2015 after having one of the worst in 2014. He's really got this great new system with 3 more defensively oriented midfielders. He's brought in Clément Chantôme from PSG, and we've seen a similar success with Christophe Jallet at Lyon. That these players who are veterans and on the fringes at PSG, but still have a lot to give, have really made a difference. And that's 2 players this season, and I think Sagnol's done very well to bring that sort of player in from a bigger team that was maybe on the fringes. He took a similar approach with bringing Diego Contento in from Bayern Munich. So he's done well in the transfer window. He's tightened up the defense. He's got the best out of a lot of younger players. You look at the likes of Diego Roland, Wabi Kazri have really come on this season as well. And Nicolas Palois, again, is not a younger player, but he's made the transition to Ligue 1 seamlessly. He's done great this year. He's getting great performances out of Sane as well. And I think things look really bright for Bordeaux. They've got a really solid defense. Cheikh Diabate, who was their leading scorer at the time, missed half the season. A full season of him and Roland leading the line. I think that with a solid defense and the ability to give Kazri a bit more freedom ahead of that midfield 3, I'm not saying the sky's the limit. I don't see Bordeaux winning a title, but I could easily see them pushing for Champions League places next year, especially once they've had a whole off-season to sort of develop and have Diabate back to full strength. And this counter-attacking style, defense first, has worked so well for a lot of other teams in Ligue 1. It'd be no surprise to see Bordeaux do the same. You look at the likes of Saint-Etienne and Monaco, building a team around defense and opportunistic attackers is what makes success in this league by and large. Unless you're a Lyon, a Marseille, or a PSG, the other teams that have done well this season, even a Montpellier in 7th, that idea of the counterattack being the way in which offense is generated has proven time and again to be true. And the way that Sagnol's molded this team after a rough start is incredibly impressive. I think he's got a very bright future as a manager, especially considering his lack of prior experience.
What do you make of Eric? Sorry, Nathan. What did you make of Caraso's season, Eric?
I think that he could have done a little bit better. I mean, this is a guy who is on sort of the fringes of the Les Bleus in the recent past, but he's sort of fallen away. It could have been better, but I don't see Bordeaux having. I don't see a great need for him to be replaced. I think he's serviceable for the time being.
No, I mean he's been a great servant for the club and all that, but there have been some first warning signs of him getting on a bit. I mean, first of all, you had it was shortlisted for the top 5 goals of the season. It was Alexis Bossetti's outside of the left boot, I think, or it was probably the right boot, and it was against Carasso, and it was a good goal. It was great to attempt. It was a great attempt. And it was a great goal, but it really highlighted Carasso completely off his line. So that was the first goal, which I thought it was okay, but top 5 probably not. And then I'm sure you've seen Fekir's goal for Lyon against Bordeaux this weekend. It's just a kind of shot that you'd expect Carasso to save, or at least he would have saved it a couple of years before. And again, it's a great effort by Fekir, but Carasso really should be saving those kinds of shots. So the defense has done a really good job, and I think actually this team has nothing to envy Saint-Etienne. I mean, they're really strong all over the pitch. Mariano, Contento, Thiago. And Punje, they're really good players. The midfield is good. Plazel is still going strong, and he just extended his contract. There's youngsters coming in. Maurice Billet didn't have that bad a season. Clément Chantôme, who was at PSG, is a good solid player. He can play lots of places. Diego Roland up front has been really good. 13 goals this season, which is really good. But it's just that Carasso, to me, he's probably cost them a few points, and it's a shame because they probably could have aimed a bit higher. But anyways, this really just a question.
Sure, but where would you see an improvement coming from? I mean, there's been a little bit of a fallout with Geoffrey Jourdain at Montpellier. I mean, he could be an improvement, but I mean, where else would Bordeaux, get an improvement from? I don't maybe Remy Vercrute from Caen. I mean, he's impressed me every time I've seen him this season, but I don't know that there are that many goalkeepers that are within Bordeaux's means that would improve this team. I think that's sort of the issue, and it's the issue for just about every club in France. If your name's not PSG, that financial constraints mean that you're probably going to have a weak point at some point in your team. It's and even the likes of a Lyon or a Monaco, you look at how much Monaco struggled in attack earlier in the season, and Lyon have a very thin squad. If something were to happen to the likes of a Bedimo or a Jallet long term, I mean, where are you going to Tolisso, Mehdi Zefan? I mean, this is a league in which money is a constraining factor, and I don't see how Bordeaux could afford any sort of appreciable upgrade on Carasso. I think that's mainly the issue for me.
Well, I don't know. I mean, when Lois left Lyon, I think Vercrute played a season or something like that.
He played 13, yeah.
Yeah. And then he left, and then Lopez was straight given the range. I mean, I'm not saying Carasso is not good enough anymore. He's a great goalkeeper. He was actually predicted a brighter future than Mandanda by many experts. But why not give Hughes his chance? I mean, if we're having this debate, I mean, I think there were just a few soft goals that he let in, and that's to me the only real source of dissatisfaction for Sagnol. Because the rest of the squad has been good, and it's been good to actually watch them under Francis Gillot. They weren't going really anywhere, and now I mean they're still where they used to be, but you sense a bit more momentum around the place, which is great to see. But now the real question is, what can they do in Europe? And that's going to be the big question mark. Because with all these added Europa League games, is Sagnol going to actually want to play in the group stages or not? So that's that's an important question. But I think I still think it's been a great success for Seattle for a first season.
And jumping off from all of that, how far can this team go? They've got a new stadium next season. If they bring in some nice players after a good season under Sagnol, where can they go, Eric?
Well, I think Champions League qualification is definitely a possibility if there's any sort of second season syndrome, if you will, from the likes of Jardim or Fournier. I think Bordeaux, if one of those two should slip up, provided Monaco do get third next weekend, I think Bordeaux are the best positioned team in the league to step into that void. Saint-Etienne and Marseille have done very well this season, but I think there are too many questions going forward about the makeup of their playing staff. Marseille with so many players leaving, and now there's rumors surrounding Saint-Etienne's playing staff as well. Gradell's expressed an interest to want to go back in England. There's been none of that surrounding Bordeaux. This is a relatively veteran squad. With a few exceptions, most of these players are 24, 25 or older, and there seems to be a good unity and character about the team. And they seem to have belief under Sagnol that some results haven't gone their way. They've had some bad breaks, but this team could be in third place next year. I wouldn't really be surprised by that. I think realistically they'll probably be fourth or fifth again, but if they can maintain the same defensive solidity that they demonstrated in 2015, as opposed to the first half of the season, Europe. I think European qualification should be a minimum expectation for them, rather than something they're just sort of sneaking into by dint of a cup result.
Philip, do you agree with that?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, we have no idea what's going to happen at Lyon and Marseille next season with the added pressure and physical demand of the European games. And I'm pretty sure that Bordeaux will be able to sneak in. I mean, they've always been. It's never been brilliant this season, but they've always been decent. Always been decent. Just 9 defeats is really not a lot, and it's. I think for me, the aim would be to finish in front of Saint-Etienne. I think that's really more than possible. And let's not forget added momentum of a new stadium. That's pretty cool as well.
Yeah, I'm sure that we're hoping. I have a sneaky feeling that Bordeaux might be a little bit of a surprise package next season. Moving on to my favourite section of our show. It's Heroes and Villains time yet again, where we pick a hero and a villain from the week in French football. Eric, I'm going to come to you first. Who's your hero and who's your villain?
Bernardo Silva has got to be the hero. Monaco needed a result. At the time that he scored his goal, just before halftime, Marseille were already up 2-0 on Lille, and if Monaco didn't win the game, things were looking very dire for their Champions League prospects. And he responded with a great finish, and then later on had an assist for Valère Germain to seal the points. So, good on him. He's been coming on strong in the last 2 or 3 months, and he just continued that. Really took the team on his shoulders going forward, and that's what was needed. For villain, I've got to go with the Nice fans. Puel's been disappointing. He's sort of fallen off in the past couple seasons after that fifth 2 years ago. But even though goal scoring's been a bit of an issue, he's always tried to be positive with the team, and he's had some issues with injuries to players who were looked to for leadership, like Didier Degarde and Matthew Bodmer, have missed quite a bit of time this season. And I think that he should be cut a little more slack. I mean, again, Nice are 90+% of the teams in France. Money's an issue. They're forced to sell players on and keep things turning over in order to keep themselves financially viable. And I don't think that Puel has been as much of a disaster as the fans would have made out. It's certainly not a reason to go assaulting the players and the manager.
And Philip, your choices this week?
My heroes and villains this week are Maxime Gradel for his great all-round performance against Evian. So first of all, his goal, well-taken penalty, and he really strikes me as the type of guy who brings a good atmosphere within the squad. Saint-Etienne are always on the move. He's always attacking, and Saint-Etienne have just looked better when I've seen him play and when Gradel was about. I don't think they had that good a spell when he was at the African Cup of Nations. So he's definitely my heroes this week. And the villains would be Evian for not letting us have an exciting relegation fight till the very end. Sorry, Evian fans, but you just had to keep on fighting.
Yeah, and you've ruined all our excitement. Thank you very much. Well, let's move on to the final talking point of the week. We've talked about these awards for the past 2 weeks, but last night they actually happened. The Trophies UNFP du Football Awards provided plenty of controversy, but we'll start with the Team of the Year. Who should have made that list, Eric?
Well, I mean, the biggest issue has to be Steve Mandanda as goalkeeper of the year and being the goalkeeper in the Team of the Year. I think that we saw two superb goalkeepers this year in Anthony Lopez of Lyon and Daniel Subasic of Monaco. Mandanda had a better season than last year, to be sure. He was not very good at all last year compared to his previously high standard, but I don't think he was by any means the best goalkeeper in the league, and I'm really just sort of taken aback, gobsmacked, if you will, by the way that the voting's gone for this. Elsewise in the team, I feel that David Luiz and Thiago Silva as center backs doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Loic Perrin's been head and shoulders the best center back in the league this year. And for me, Edson Mexer and Vitorino Hilton of Rennes and Montpellier, respectively, have also been really outstanding. And I'd probably go with Hilton. I mean, doing what he's been doing at the age of, I believe he's 37, has just been incredible. Montpellier have been really solid defensively all year after struggling with that. And he's in the form of his life. And, Perrin, it's just been outstanding for Saint-Etienne. The rest of the team, I don't have too much of an issue with. I can maybe take some issue over Javier Pastore. Might have gone with Idrissa Gueye there. And maybe Ibra could have been pushed out by Gignac, but that's a personal preference thing. But yeah, the central defenders and the goalkeeper, those are my quibbles, if you will.
What do you think about the Team of the Year?
Mandanda has. I agree with Eric. Mandanda has probably been the most improved goalkeeper, but he's, best goalkeeper in the league. That's a stretch. We've seen other seasons where he was absolutely extraordinary, stopping, pulling off world-class saves, and it's happened a few times this season, but not exactly consistent. And they are goalkeepers where if you were a defender and you had Mandanda behind you in the goal, you probably wish you had someone like Lopez or Subasic behind you. And I really don't really get what he's done that is so extraordinary, shall we say. Sirigu had a poor season by his standards, but Lopez and Subasic should be top two. So Mandanda should be have the silver medal. Jallet, I do agree with Jallet. He's had a very good season. Still has it. He's getting on a bit, but he still has this willingness to go forward, and he's a very, very solid right back. Completely agree with Eric about the centre back pairing. Thiago Silva had a great second half of the season. He hasn't had a great season. First half of the season didn't look interested at all. And David Luiz is, I'd rather honestly, I said it in a previous podcast. I'd rather have Marquinhos next to Thiago Silva at the back and David Luiz as a defense shielder. So I wouldn't even have David Luiz at anywhere near best centre back in the league. Hilton not being there is concerning, but I would really get Umtiti in there. I mean, Umtiti has been by far the best centre back. He's been really, really, really good. Maxwell has been okay, I suppose. Mendy is a shout, and I wouldn't have given it to I wouldn't have put Zlatan in there. He just hasn't been good enough to be in this squad, especially when you've got someone like Fekir, who's up and coming, who's hungry, and Zlatan hasn't really done it for me. It's not really.
Well, there's been plenty of controversy over the awards, really, and let's start off with that Manager's Award and Laurent Blanc's win, which came as a surprise. Can you make a case for him, Philip?
Not really. I mean, it's he hasn't done anything wrong, and he's kept his tactics to quite rigorously. But he's kept it. Yeah, he's kept it 4-3-3, and honestly, I think he's actually regressed compared to last season, because when PSG were not having a good time in December, Blanc starts to come out and say, okay, we'll start to be a bit more serious now, and basically, forgive my language, but cut the crap. And I was thinking, well, why is there even any crap to begin with? I mean, would Carlo Ancelotti have that way? I don't think so. And would any other high-profile manager let world-class players to do basically whatever they want? And you know, it just sounds like it lacks a little bit of discipline in the ranks. But you know, he is. I mean, if PSG do beat us, they are going to win the treble. But still, I mean, he's expected to do that. So for Blanc to win it, it's a bit harsh on him, because he really needs to have a great season to actually win Manager of the Year. But and he hasn't had a bad season, but it really needs to be seriously good to better Hubert Fournier's Lyon achievement, because what Hubert Fournier did was really, really good. I mean, we knew he was a great manager with what he did at Reims, and Reims almost went down as Fournier left the building. But what he did at Lyon is nothing short of extraordinary. It's been really, really good, and so has Jardim. Jardim a bit less, because he does have established Ligue 1 players. And Bielsa, actually, I'm still of the opinion that Marseille have overachieved. So Bielsa is also up there with the best, the top managers. But you know, it's I just can't really say that Blanc deserves to be appointed Manager of the Year.
Eric, do you think it was fair that it went to Blanc?
No, I mean, Fournier is an obvious choice, but you know, I will give Blanc some points. I mean, he certainly developed some players. I think that we've really seen Lucas Moura come on this season. Javier Pastore is another one too. I mean, he hadn't really demonstrated any ability to play in midfield in this 4-3-3, but now he's taken that on. And you look at his performance against Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. He's shown the ability to get into the side in the midfield, which is something he'd not previously demonstrated before. He kind of lacked the verve to do that. I think that his willingness to experiment, and I mean, again, down to necessity, give Marquinhos a shot at right back, I think was, you know, a bit of a risky move, but really paid off well. Adrien Rabiot has really come on as well. And there's certainly a lot of positives to take from Blanc's performance this season. I just don't, again, like Philip said, I don't think it measures up to the achievements of Fournier at Lyon, but I think Blanc's really shown a lot of character and intelligence this season to really make his mark. And again, not Manager of the Year material, but I think it's a more positive performance for him on the whole than a lot of people would suggest.
Well, moving on to another controversial word, we've talked about it briefly. Mandanda, is there any reason you can give him the award, Philip? I think that tells its own story.
Yeah, no, not really. I mean, I haven't watched Marseille as much as Lyon or PSG, but I don't. No, I'm sorry, Marseille fans who are listening. I can't really think of a reason he hasn't done badly, just like Blanc at Paris Saint-Germain. But it just hasn't been extraordinary. You know, we know that Mandanda is a great keeper and he's capable of saving any shot on his day. But then again, he's also capable of not stopping them on his day, on his worst day as well. But I'm not really. Still can't. No, sorry. It's just not. I just don't get that.
Are going away present?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Maybe he's going to Dynamo Moscow. I don't know. I hope not. I mean, he's still a great goalkeeper and one I do enjoy watching. But you know, no, I would still have Lopez and Subasic over him.
Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, like I said, Mandanda has improved this season over last, but he's still not been at his best, and certainly not at the level of Lopez and Subasic. It couldn't be any more cut and dry.
As for the other awards, as expected, Lacazette winning Player of the Year, Fekir, is they're the right decisions?
Fekir makes sense, absolutely. I mean, he's been incredibly dynamic this season. Goals, assists, drawing fouls, drawing penalties. You know, for someone who played just a handful of Ligue 1 games prior to this season, breakout player of the year, you know, full international. It's, you know, his rise is nothing short of meteoric. That's absolutely exceptional on his part. Player of the year, you know, I would probably go with Payet over Lacazette, honestly. Even being a Lyon fan, I know Lacazette's goals have been important, but you know, I talked about this last week and in some pieces I've written for the website, but his form's really fallen away in the past couple months, where we've seen Payet over and over be Marseille's most consistent performer. We saw that again last week on Saturday against Lille. He's just been tremendous. You know, being the creative engine of this Marseille team week in and week out. He's probably been their most consistent performer, which is, you know, again, doubly impressive when you're asked to think about the defensive contributions he's also been asked to make in the system that Bielsa plays, and tracking back and such from his number 10 role to aid the defensive midfielders. Really a good, solid, consistent season from Payet. He's league leader in assists, and you know, he's the engine in one of the better attacks in the league. And you know, were it not for some unfortunate tactical bungling from Bielsa, and you know, again, the injury to N'Koulou can't be discounted either. I think Marseille would still be right up there, battling for the title, were it not been for that little run there. But Payet was the engine the whole season, and they're still in with the shot at the Champions League, and that's down to him. He's been their outstanding player all year, and he hasn't had a cold patch or a hot patch. He's just been a solid, consistent player all year long. And for me, that outweighs Lacazette's goal-scoring tally, impressive as though it may be.
Quickly, Philip, do you agree with that?
Yeah, for Lacazette, I can make a point for Lacazette with all his goal he scored, and even when he was not playing well after his injury, he was actually still scoring goals, so that's pretty good. For Fekir, I would have gone with Marquinhos personally, but I've watched more of Marquinhos than Fekir, sorry Lyon fans. It's not too many complaints on that front. I do understand the choices. That's not it's not like Mandanda and Blanc, shall we say? Yeah, I mean, I do understand these two have had great seasons. I completely understand. No complaints from my side.
That's good, and hopefully they both stay in Liga for next season as well.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah.
Yeah, and that's all we have for this week. My thanks to Eric and Philip. Thanks for joining us, and come back again. Join us next week. Have a good evening, everyone. Bye.